right, you're good to go.
Okay, thanks.
hmm
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's Safety and Security Committee meeting. Today is February 10th. It is 9:02. And again, I want to welcome everyone who's present and or joining. Um, Also wanted to just give a couple opening remarks here really quickly. Um, Look, we have our full team present here today, which is great. Jim Wiltsey, the Director of Safety and Security, is here. He's been quite busy, so looking forward to hearing what he has to say, giving us some updates on these items on the agenda. Also, just want to briefly reiterate for everyone out there the goals of the committee, which are to promote the safety and security of the district, as well as to enhance the transparency and communication with Weston parents in the Weston community whenever it's possible. So, with that being said, let's move on to the approval of minutes. Uh, David, Nicole, did you guys have a chance to review the minutes? Any comments, questions?
Michael, say that again.
I said regarding the approval of the minutes. Did you and Nicole have a chance to review? Do you have any comments or questions about the minutes?
I reviewed it. I don't have any questions.
Nicole,
I don't either.
Okay, great. All right, so can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right. Moving on, discussion of safety and security topics. Let me pull this up here. In terms of, let's see. Okay, so we'll start off announcements. So I think there are a bunch of things here in terms of, the physical security and threat prevention items that I think last time Erica was kind enough to help me out with sort of updating and giving just a status on what's been going on in the district in Jim's absence. But we do have Jim back here today, which is great. So looking forward to your comments, Jim. So I'll kick it to the top here, just in terms of the updates. Let's start off with the radio infrastructure project, if you could.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I received the 8-page proposal from Norcom Connecticut. Norcom Connecticut is the vendor that the police department has recently used to update their radio infrastructure. The engineering phase and the build phase has been completed. So basically the proposal is a contract, and I tore it apart. I wasn't happy with a lot of it because it left us exposed. Those 15 bullet points, and the first word was assumption. I don't play that game with this high level of investment for the district. My goal has been since day one to future-proof this investment. And make it compatible to build off of the foundation that we build with the new infrastructure. So I had a meeting with them a couple days ago, a Zoom meeting, and we went line by line, and they agreed to all of my changes. So I'm waiting for their legal team to update those changes and then send it back to me. We're just in a holding pattern. Once I get that proposal back, I'll sit down with Phil, generate a PO, and the payment structure is day one. As soon as we get that PO, they're talking 8 to 16 weeks, which originally was supposed to be 18 months. So my goal is to, as soon as they get their first deposit, their process is they start the FCC licensing, which could take a couple weeks. While they do that, they start ordering the equipment. And then as soon as the equipment comes in, they start putting it together. I'm thinking as soon as we're done with school, I can have them come in and start building the antenna towers on each school. So that would be a good time because it is a lot of work. I mean, cranes and all kinds of stuff. Each school is getting what's called a repeater antenna system that goes down and plugs directly into the data closet. So I'm really pushing them to get this moving. So that's kind of where we're at. So by, next September, early August, we'll have the entire district will have brand new radio system. That also includes the buses, the bus depot, the dispatcher over at the bus depot, all brand new state of the art digital radios. So our emergency communication is going to be updated, improved. We'll have crystal clear communications. Oh, and that also includes the dispatchers in the emergency communication center at Westport Police Department. They will have a desktop version. So they'll be able to be connected to the security channel. So they can listen in. They have a scan feature. Not that they're going to want to hear the custodians cleaning up something in the cafeteria, but they'll have access as well, which is huge. So that's pretty much where we are with that project. I know it's taken some time, but I want to get this right because I know Weston, prior to me getting here, was trying to get this going for 2 years, and it just never got off the ground. So in working with Phil, the money's been allocated. So we're pretty much at that point where we're signing off and moving forward with it. Does anyone have any questions about what we're building? That's good.
I don't. I have two quick questions. Just one for you, one for Joe. For you, why do you think that timeline shrunk so much? Has the scope of the project changed at all, or have they put
So that original timeline that I was given was so by the way, February 3rd was my 1-year anniversary, and I'm still here.
Congrats, I think.
And I think the first week I was here, I met with Andy from Norcom, and that was the original. He's sitting in my office, just shooting from the hip. We're looking at 18 months. I said, okay, complete project. That's going back and forth with contracts. So that's a good thing that timeline has shrunk because all the groundwork has been done. I've met with them several times this year. We've been climbing up on the roofs, through basements. They did what's called a test with the portable radios that we're getting. They bring them to the district. Every square foot, every corner, every crevice of every school for weeks. We walked around and tested. Can you hear me now? One of the technicians was on the roof at Hurlbut, and then we would be all the way up at the middle school. We went all the way to Rebson Field, and this was their field test to make sure that it's going to work the way we design it. And this also coincides with the contract I just tore apart because there was just the word assumption was too much. And I wasn't ready to pull that trigger, if you will, until we're happy with the work that they do, that they've completed, and the system is programmed and operates the way I expect it to.
Two items of clarification just with respect to the radios. These are the radios also that come with the noise canceling tech. Is that correct? So you're in the boiler room, something's happening.
It's amazing.
Clear as day. Okay.
Yeah.
And then secondly, are these the radios that come with now video? Is there a video capability in these radios, or?
So after working with Phil,
yep,
we're ordering 10 of, they're called Motorola Ions, and they literally look like they have a screen like this. We're getting 10 of those. The SROs, the 7 security guards, and myself will have that accessibility. Those will have video. They integrate with the Vigilon system. So eventually when we get to the prop chimes that we've talked about in the past, the radios will alert. The radios are not cheap. Those are the high level models. So instead of ordering 25 of them, I want to make sure that we're using the equipment the way it's going to be used, and the people that are going to use those features are getting those top end radios. And then the lower model are the R7s and R5s. So the R5s we're ordering, I think, 140 of the R5s, which is it doesn't have a video screen on it. But your nurses, your counselors, even the admin, they're not going to be sitting there with the radio looking at a video screen. So in an effort to save money and order more radios, because this year we ordered some more radios for the new crisis teams throughout the district. So we have a crisis channel that is built into each radio, and that is for the specific school. It's called a simplex channel. So the crisis team at Hurlbut will be able to talk to each other, not have to worry about cell phones. If there's an issue at one of the schools with the crisis team, they will operate on their own channel. So by lowering my order of ions, I was able to increase the R5s so that we have more radios out in the field for people that need them.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Joe, just a quick question for you, and Joe Michelli is here for the Weston PD, and we're thankful that you are. Joe, how much does this change, if at all? I assume it does. What does this mean for the communication between, let's say, the district and the police department itself in terms of communication?
It's just giving us a better solution. It's more robust. The new features, Jim's doing a great job of building out a system that's compatible with our new system in the communication center. And as we get, as we get closer to delivery and, flipping the switch, turning everything on, we'll go through everything and leverage the technology and the systems to best serve the district and our first responder community to augment what we have. So the system Jim has built is outstanding, and it's really going to be a great resource for all of us in the event of an emergency.
Awesome.
So just to clarify and piggyback what Captain Michelli just said, and Joe backed me up, just so everyone understands, the police department are operating on an encrypted system, 800 megahertz. Public school districts cannot operate on that channel. That is a state police allocated channel that's assigned by the state of Connecticut to the police department. Many departments throughout the state are transitioning to this very expensive platform, but it's encrypted. So, years ago, if you are old enough to remember Radio Shack, you could go buy a scanner and listen to what the cops and firemen are doing. See? So
Can't have too many.
One of the not really an issue, because I'm building the platform that is going to be accessible for the police department's dispatchers. It's going to live on their desktop, so they're hearing everything live that's going on. Our school district radios will not be able to speak to the police channel like they used to in the past, years ago. But we've created a layered system, and 2 of those ions are getting assigned to the 2 SROs that are embedded in our school, so that there is accessibility. If a guard needs to contact dispatch directly, they can still do that, and the dispatcher, it'll pop up on their screen on their desktop. It's just the channels can't talk to one another because theirs is encrypted, ours is not. Does that make sense? I just want to clarify that.
Yeah,
Okay.
our channel is encrypted. It doesn't even work with fire and EMS. Although we're on the same band, frequency wavelengths, we have an encryption key that's specific to the police department, and it's only available per the state of Connecticut to police departments. We do have tri-band radios. When we did the new system here, we bought the top end radio, so all of our mobile and portable radio units are tri-band. So we will be able to, by switching channels, frequencies, we will be able to communicate direct if we need to, but we can always patch through the communication center. So you will have a direct link from all of your radios into the communication center. The on-duty dispatcher will be monitoring that frequency. And in the event that we need to either change channels on our end from our hardware or patch the communication through the communication center, we should be able to accommodate that as well. So the new system is more robust, and between what both entities have invested in will give us that ability to communicate easier and more clearly.
Jim, I have a quick tech question, just partially out of curiosity and just to ask the question. Are there repeaters for the system in the buildings?
Each school has a repeater and an antenna. So the way the antiquated system works now is it bounces off the tower at the police department. So if you're at the middle school, your voice literally goes all the way to the police department tower, bounces off that, and goes back to middle school. The way it's going to be built, each school is its own independent island, if you will. And then there'll be a couple district channels that will be able to talk throughout the district. So the simplex channels, it's called a simplex channel. That's one-to-one within that school. Each school will have an antenna and a repeater on its own system. And then there's overriding channels, a central office channel and a security channel that's built into the system that will be able to talk to each school, throughout the district. Crisis team channel is a simplex channel that's assigned and embedded to each individual school. So if that crisis team member goes to a different school, they'll just change the channel to the school they're in, and that's individual for that school. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what happens in two scenarios? One scenario, we renovate the middle school. It might happen, no promises, but we renovate the middle school. What happens to the equipment? But then I guess my other question is, what happens if there's a power outage at one of the schools? How does it affect communication in the school, and how does it affect communication through the other schools?
Sure. So the power outage issue, I'm designing the system with UPS battery backups. Each one of the routers and any radio equipment is going to get wired directly into the generator panel. So I just, Mike Del Mastro said each school has a generator, but it can't run the entire school. I think Hurlbut was the only one that can run the entire school. And maybe Dan knows a little bit more about this, but the radio system, because it's emergency communication, the power is going to be tied right into that panel. So if we get a brownout or a power surge, or we lose power altogether, the battery backup keeps the emergency communication transition or system on while it transitions over to generator power. So we're never going to lose that emergency communication. It's a redundant backup system.
Okay, so the system will be tied into the generator, and the UPS will hold it for the time it takes to switch over.
Yes.
Okay, so a power outage at a particular building shouldn't affect another building, but from a communication perspective, let's just say something happens at that building where they lose power and the generator doesn't come online. Is the middle school's communication with Hurlbut, for example, dependent on WIS or some other school being up?
The district channels, no. The simplex channels, yes. The simplex channels are internal to that school.
Right.
So
Okay.
if that repeater and antenna system go down because of power, those channels are going to be dead.
But it doesn't affect the ability, for example, for something happens, WIS goes offline, the middle school needs to communicate with Hurlbut, or the middle school needs to communicate with the high school. There's no dependence on one building talking to another with a third being up and running.
No.
Okay. And for the middle school, if and when we renovate it, is the equipment relatively easy to remove and relocate? And is that a fairly big expense, or is it a minimal expense? I only ask because we should be aware of that.
So all the new equipment, the repeaters, it's as technology has improved, everything got smaller. So it's not going to be a heavy lift to have Norcom come out. It literally plugs into the servers in the data closet with Cat6 cable. They unplug it, pull the equipment off. And we're not talking like the tower at the police department. This is tiny equipment, very small, very powerful. It's not like what you see up on the tower. So yes, it will be easy if and when they decide to do a renovation job or tear it down. We can move the equipment.
Okay, great, thanks.
And it shouldn't cost. There shouldn't be a heavy lift.
All right, thanks, David. Anything, Nicole, on this? Oh, you got okay.
Well, Mike, while we're
Yeah.
talking about radios, I had a meeting with Mark Berkowitz. I just want to mention, I just because they should get credit. And Joe, I don't know names. I guess EMS is updating their radios, and they went to Mark at the athletic department, and they're donating the old radios that they have that are still viable radios, like they one-to-one to walkie-talkies, and they're giving Mark like 10 to 15 of them for free. So he can use them on the field with coaches, because he always has an issue with the coaches on the field when they go to the other field, the lacrosse field, and he always wants to be able to give them portable radios. And just there's not enough to go around right now. So I just think it's nice to mention the EMS has donated at least 10 to 15 of their radios to the athletic department at the high school, which I think is really nice of them.
That's great. That's good to hear. Okay, awesome. Thank you for this. Look, this radio infrastructure project, as you mentioned at the beginning, we've been trying to tackle this for a couple of years. This is a big deal. So thank you for the efforts here. I know it's a lot of work, and you've been basically it's consumed you since you've been here, right? For the last year, you've been working on this. So kudos to you for getting this up and running and actually seeing this through. And hopefully by the beginning of this coming school year, we'll be in a much better place. So that's great. Okay, moving on. Let's see, the burglar alarm monitoring equipment update. So we touched on this before. If you give just high level context, Jim, and then talk about where we are with this, that'd be great.
So that we switched from the monitoring company, I think it was Security 101, back under to Omnidata. Omnidata is our vendor that handles all things security related, access fobs, access control, cameras. They're basically our Vigilon go-to. So now they are monitoring the system. We did save some money. I think it was just under $1,000 by switching to them. What we have noticed is an uptick or an increase in alarms. So now the system's working. The company is going through the alarm. It's every single door on every single building has a magnetic sensor. So this is a big lift for the company. And I'm trying not to break the bank, if you will. It's a lot of man hours to have technicians come out and go through every single door. They started with replacing the battery backups at each school, so we know the alarms work. But the system hasn't been serviced in many, many, many years, and there are some of those magnetic door controllers that need to be updated or replaced. So we're slowly going through the district and doing that. Your burglar alarms comes on at midnight automatically. It shuts off at 5 a.m. automatically. I think 3 times this week I've gotten text messages. So I get a text message. Mike Del Mastro get a text message. I got one at 3 a.m. this morning. That an alarm went off. One of the issues that we're trying to clean up, when I say we, myself and Omni, is the way the system was built years ago before my time. They built it in zones. So I'm trying to rebuild it to make it easy to understand. So when I get a text message, it says zone 3, B6. I don't know what that is. Mike Del Mastro doesn't know what that is. This was built many, many years ago. I wanted to say Hurlbut C5. Then we know that door, that's the clean way to do it. So like I said, it's a tedious process. I'm going to try and do some of it when the district's closed for February break, because it's going to require turning the alarm system on and going to each door and opening it. There's no easy way to back end that. So that's coming up, but it works. The system works. I'm just trying to clean it up.
When do we think that process would be complete, Jim? Do we think it'd be complete by the end of the school year? Or are you going to need the summer to really tie this thing up?
I think I get more done in the summer, honestly, because like I said, I got to turn the alarm system on.
Yeah.
And go to each door, and then have another person at the panel. And when I pull on the door, the panel tells you what that is. And I have to write all this down and then go back and rebuild or rename all of the doors. So they all it's a lot of work, and I've been pulling my hair out, trying to think of there's got to be an easier way, but according to Omni, there's not. We have to go through door by door, and it's going to take a couple people to get that done.
I can't imagine how tedious it is. I remember doing that at my house, and that was tedious.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine across the district.
Yeah, I'm just going to pick a school and dive into it. But like I said, it's probably going to be easier for me to do it in the summer. I'm not too concerned about the system works. I just, like I said, I want to clean it up to make it easier to understand when an alarm is triggered, where is it coming from?
Awesome. Thanks for the update. And any questions, David and Nicole, on this?
I'm just wondering, when you said that you get alarm notifications at night, and Mike does too, and it gives you a zone, but you don't know what it is, what other follow-up happens in that moment for you to know that it's not an emergency?
Well, police are dispatched.
Okay.
So we get a notification text, and then the alarm monitoring company calls Weston Police Department non-emergency line, says, hey, we got an alarm going off 9 School Road. And then the officers show up and they walk around the whole school. It's -5. So yeah, that's what happens.
Got it.
Yeah, there's an officer that responds just to check. 99.9% of them are false alarms from the wind or ice, or the door isn't latching tight enough. So if the door's closed at night and there's a little bit of play in that door, and then it gets windy overnight, and that little magnet does this, the alarm's going off.
And
that's what we're slowly trying to fix. Sorry, Joe, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I was saying we several years ago kind of relabeled all the windows and doors, so there's exterior markers on the doors, which helps if there's a response from the police department. If we can do once we get what Jim is saying, everything restructured and labeled properly within the system, it'll also help our officers know that they're going to door B6, which from a response perspective tells them they're going to the left side of the building looking for, door or window number 6. So it kind of speeds up our response and makes everything more efficient as well. So this is a great project and undertaking that Jim is conducting here. This will be a great help for us.
Awesome. Okay. Keep us posted. Next item. Let's see, the updated MOU with the Weston PD. I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit more about this, Jim.
Sure. So we had per state mandate, we have an MOU in place between the Weston Public School District and the police department. That needed to be updated when we brought in the Sandy Hook Anonymous reporting platform to allow access for our dispatchers to access the demographics of any call that comes in from the Sandy Hook Crisis Center. We're trying to increase that response time. So if they get an after hours call, meaning Sandy Hook Anonymous reporting platform gets an after hours call that concerns a life safety issue where they have to dispatch an officer to that house to do a welfare check. The way it was set up earlier, prior to this new MOU, was the dispatch center would either have to call Tracy or one of the SROs and hope they would answer, and then they would have to log into PowerSchool and figure out where the kid lives or the student lives. So what we've done is streamline that process, and Dan built Dispatch their own login, and they log in, they can just type in, Joe Smith, these are his parents, this is the phone number. That's all the access level that they have, strictly demographics. This increases this response time for emergency personnel to go to the house, do a welfare check instead of trying to make 2 or 3 different phone calls. I think, Joe, we've used it once, and the system's working very well. So we had to update the MOU to give access to our dispatchers. So that was just signed off this week. Deb signed off on it. Erica signed off on it, the chief and the police commission board signed off on it. So Jody has it, and then that per state mandate has to get posted on our website for all to see.
Okay, I don't think I have any questions. Is there anything from David or Nicole on this one? Okay. Thanks, Jim, for being diligent on that. Next topic. Let's see. Safety and security policy updates. I've heard about one or two of these. So sitting on the policy committee. So if you can go through some of these, Jim, that would be really appreciated.
Not prepared for that because there's been so many that come through my computer. Basically Erica tosses them to me. Anything that's safety and security related policy. I think the last one I touched was loitering from 1989. But it's been, there's not, I mean, we're just updating the language. Just for an example, some of the language in them are talking about Department of Public Safety, which is not even called that anymore at the state level. So just minor edits to the current language used in 2026 for those policies. The one I'm working on right now is the SRO policy. I want to make sure that, so the SRO policy that exists in the Board of Ed policy manual is from 2018. And I just want to clean it up and make sure that it mirrors what the MOU states so that they both, they don't contradict one another. That's the current one that I'm working on.
Yeah, Erica has lobbed about 5,000 policy reviews to us recently. Just a few here and there. And there have been some safety and security policies. And David and I always asked, has Jim reviewed this? Has he looked at the language? And, it seems like every time we ask, basically, you've reviewed, you provide your input. So you're very much involved in the process there. So again, I know that takes a lot of time too. So I think we all appreciate that.
Michael, I think it took me more time to figure out how to use the Google edit because I'm not used to that system. How you put the comments on the side without destroying the document.
I can give
that
you
took the most time.
We're trying to keep our system intact. You've been very good, Jim. Thank you very much. And we do appreciate your eyes and expertise behind them. But for the record, Michael, just some of the more recent ones that came before the policy committee were fire emergencies and disaster preparedness, loitering or causing disturbance, possession of deadly weapons or firearms, sexual offenders. And as Jim said, the SRO policy will be forthcoming.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Erica. Thanks for the update. Okay, let's see. Moving on to cybersecurity. So a couple things here for our expert, Dan DeVito here, who's joined us. And again, appreciate that, Dan, taking some time. So we have two topics here, just generally speaking, cybersecurity updates. And then I added as well, Dan, just if you had any updates with respect to SmartPass system, maybe that's part of the general update, but let's kick it to you for a general update here.
Sure. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about what the district does, an overview from a cybersecurity perspective, because cybersecurity, they're one in one. There's constant threats that are happening from a cybersecurity perspective. So I just kind of want to give everyone a brief overview so the public understands what we're doing to protect students and staff. So we take a comprehensive and proactive approach to cybersecurity. It focuses on protecting the students, the staff, and the district systems while supporting teaching and learning, which sometimes can be a difficult balance. At a technical level, our firewall blocks traffic from certain countries that are known sources of cyber threats. So it helps prevent malicious activity before it even has a chance to reach our systems. If we need to provide access to sites that are in those countries that we have blocked, we just have to simply whitelist them on a one-on-one basis. but we always do our due diligence and investigate the site before we even whitelist it. The biggest part of cybersecurity is it's not just a technology issue, it's a people issue. So we're always trying to train and empower staff members to be cognizant and aware of phishing attempts. So we use a security awareness program that conducts simulated phishing emails to help staff recognize suspicious messages and respond accordingly. They're designed to educate, not penalize the staff members, just to teach them, right? To always pause when you see a message that's asking for certain things. Because inevitably in school districts, and this happens in corporations too, but the biggest thing in school districts is accounts outside of our school district that people have spoken to from other school districts or from Alliant Resks or anything like that. Those accounts then get compromised, and then they message somebody, all of their contacts. It just happened to our district last week where we got 52 emails sent to us from somebody people have corresponded with previously. And the amount of messages I got from everybody saying, listen, I've talked to this person before, but this message just seems weird. I haven't responded to it. And so it's working. So the awareness training that we're providing for staff members has been working. And on the back end, we're Google for email. It allows us to then quickly identify the email and pull it from people's mailboxes before they even have a chance to click on it. So it's very helpful. Google has really improved their security suite and their investigation tools. Students are also now a potential target of cyber attacks. We've had, over the last couple of years, student accounts at other local school districts. Those accounts get compromised. Then they message students in our district or staff members. So to try to combat that and to reduce risk in an age-appropriate way, our kindergarten through 8th grade students, the email is considered a closed campus. So students K-8 cannot email anybody outside of our domain unless we specifically whitelist certain email addresses. So for some certain websites that they're using, we have to whitelist it. But we did have to shut that down because there's a step-by-step process. And part of the digital citizenship curriculum, the students learn about security awareness and online protection. And so it's just safer to just cut them from the outside world from K-8 perspective. And then once they get into high school, they need outside email for college acceptance, applications, things like that. So then it's opened up at that point in time. But there's been enough training for students at that point in time where we feel comfortable that they're cognizant and how to look at everything in a way that makes sure that they stay protected. Jim does a fantastic job, as well as the state of Connecticut, forwarding us any security bulletins that they get. So any emerging threats, Jim is real fast. He actually sends it to me before the state does. So I don't know how you do that, Jim, but thank you very much.
I'm on it. It's the Connecticut Intelligence Center.
Yeah.
And they sent out, it's a great resource. And anytime they send me a PDF package, I'm not an IT guy, so I send it right to Dan and his team. So they are aware of any trends that are creeping up before it gets to us. It's great.
Yes. And sometimes the trends are before it's even public. So it's good because then it then allows us to get really proactive. It's like, hey, we've seen something like this. We've seen something like this. So myself and the team, we sit and we talk, all right, how can we protect ourselves from this? So it's really good and it's helpful. You're always trying to stay one step ahead, and it's a constant battle. I know David knows this. It's a constant battle between, the hackers and us. Sometimes they're a step ahead, sometimes we're a step ahead, and we can never just kind of rest on our laurels. And the last piece from a cybersecurity perspective is the utmost importance is to protect student privacy. So I've mentioned this before, but one of the governing laws in educational IT is the Connecticut Public Act 16-189. I know this because I've had to live this for about 15 years now, it feels like. It's an act concerning student privacy, but we can't just use any product. We can't buy anything without making sure that product, if it houses student data or has access to student data, complies with the Connecticut Student Privacy Act. And so the state has worked with school districts over the years to make sure it's a little bit easier for us to investigate. Now, companies can enter into agreement with the state directly on behalf of all the school districts. It's like the big players do that, like Google and Apple and Microsoft. There's also a Connecticut Privacy Hub that companies can pledge to comply with the agreement that we can just scan. So if there's a product that there's a need that we're looking for, before we even investigate a product, we go on that website and make sure that the product is compliant. Or a school district can actually enter into an individual agreement with these companies on a one-to-one basis to make sure that they comply. So it's kind of a holistic view as to what we do to protect students, staff, data, and the systems of our network, because there are constant stories that we're hearing around the state of Connecticut and nationally about school districts that have had their Google domain stolen from them and then held for ransom, or the PowerSchool incident that happened a little bit over a year ago. So we're always trying to be proactive. Sometimes it's reactive, but I just wanted to let everyone know that it is truly a team effort to make sure we try to stay as safe and secure as we possibly can. From a SmartPass perspective, we were testing it with a few teachers. We've slowly been rolling it out. The next step in the process is basically we have to we're bringing Chromebooks into every single classroom. So these Chromebooks are going to be kiosk checkout machines, or pass machines for SmartPass specifically. So the students do not have to use their Chromebooks to get a pass, to use the bathroom or to go to the nurse's office. Our deadline to get all of those Chromebooks in the classroom is actually tomorrow. And then once that happens, myself and Jason will be meeting with all the staff members very soon, training them on how to use it and doing the full rollout. But right now we've gotten really good feedback. We've gotten some good questions from the staff members who have been testing it for us to try to tighten up the process and make sure that it's working in the way that we want it to, where it's providing accurate documentation as to where the students are going, while at the same time not interfering with the teacher's day too much. Right? We want that process not to interrupt instruction time, but we want the teacher to be aware of what the students are doing. So far, we've had really good feedback and a very positive experience with SmartPass. So, within the next week or so, we should be fully rolled out with SmartPass. And that's basically everything.
Dan, I had a quick SmartPass question.
Yeah.
Two questions actually, and one of them, if parents have questions, actually, this might be for you as well, Erica. I've gotten a couple of emails from parents who were a bit, I want to say, uneasy with the SmartPass system. They wanted to know how the data was being collected, how it would be used. Is that a Erica redirect? I assume Erica redirect that to your office?
Yeah, you could redirect it to my office, or they should probably start with the building principal. So go to Mr. Bluestein first and talk to him a little bit about it, allow him an opportunity to answer their questions. If they are not satisfied, they can certainly reach out to myself and I can tap whoever I need to, Dan, Tina, whoever, to help respond to their question. But always start with the building principal and, to give them the autonomy and the authority to answer the question at that level first before it gets escalated to this level.
Okay. And then my question is, as far as the data that's collected, how and when is that purged? So, for example, I know right now the system is just being used in the middle school. I think it was this committee, unless this came up in another committee, but we talked about the purpose of the system, looking for trends, and I think preventing kids that may not belong in the halls together and stuff like that. So this is at the middle school only. What happens to the data? Does the data stay with the student, so to speak, or can that data be recalled for perpetuity while they're in the Weston Public Schools, or once they've left 8th grade in the middle school, the data is either literally purged or locked away, so to speak?
So right now, only the middle school teachers and staff have access to SmartPass. So once they go to the high school, the high school staff members don't have access to that. From a purging perspective, there's no schedule to purge data. We can always ask Raptor/SmartPass to purge the data after X amount of time. But for now, it just stays there in their system. For as long as we'd have access to it or as long as we are subscribed to SmartPass.
Okay. This might be something, I don't know that this is the right committee, and this may be the right committee, or if this is a policy or Board of Ed piece, but I think we should at some point, uh, like, is there a point in time, I'm kind of looking at you, Erica, just kind of the way you are on my screen, but is there a point in time that we're going to look back at the data that's been collected and validate that it's providing a service that we want, and we should continue with it? Like, is there any, I always used to say this on curriculum to Tina, right? We make these changes. Where is our academic return on investment? When do we actually see the upside to it? So is there a point in time that there's going to be some due diligence done, some look back either by the administration, by a committee, by whomever, to see that this system is collecting the data we want it to collect, and doing what it's intended to do rather than just collecting data?
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable question. I mean, we are just in the initial stages of it, and only a few educators at this point are trying it out, and then we're going to roll it out to the entire staff. And I think we had a conversation in one of our other subcommittees, where we sort of described how the data could be useful in certain instances, to support students, as well as seek to see if there's any patterns or things that we could identify where we could layer in supports for students, specific to, avoidance behaviors or things of that nature. Certainly, I think as we reset and kids exit the middle school, I don't think there will be a viable reason or need to look back at that data. But it's hard to say in this moment, not having used it for more than just a couple months and it not being sort of implemented school-wide yet.
Okay. So when the time is right, I'd love to, and I think it was curriculum now that I'm thinking about where this conversation may have happened as well. I think at some point, and I know this isn't the right committee, but at least if we're aware of it, and since I'm on this committee, I can kind of, move it forward. I think we should do a look back at some point, pick a time and make sure that the system is doing what we want it to do. And that works both ways. Are there tweaks to make the system better, or is it collecting data that isn't of direct value to the purpose of the system? So I think at some point, and maybe it's the fall, I'm not even sure, but at some point when enough data has been collected and we have some point to look back at, we should just make a note to look back at it to make sure the system is doing its intended purpose. And I feel like, Nicole, you brought up something similar to this at some point at some committee as well about the data collection piece.
I don't know if I did. However, I agree with you. There probably should be some purging in some way. I do think I personally, just in my work as an attorney, think nothing is better for a school district than record keeping. So for me, I think this is a good form of record keeping. I think that it can be used as a supportive tool for all of the reasons Erica just mentioned, we talked about in our prior meeting. Of course, not of course, but I view it as a way to get positive information to help a child rather than retain negative information that could harm a child. But of course, that is really legitimate. And so we should be thinking about that. And so, yes, maybe purging would be helpful. In addition to all the ways that, Erica said it could be supportive, and I mentioned that I was supportive of it in the last meeting, I also view it as a type of investment in technology that Jim is working on for real emergencies. I could really imagine the value of this. Like, you kind of don't really think about the value on a day-to-day basis, But when there is a real emergency, when you need to know where students are and parents want to find out where their student is, I think something like this is invaluable in the same way all of the other systems that Joe and Jim are working on.
Yeah, if I could just add to
Nicole, I
that.
think, sorry, Jim, Nicole, I think you also added a really good point in one of our previous meetings, if I'm recalling correctly. And that's if like there's a safety plan in place for a student, if there's been a conflict or an instance of mean or bullying behavior, and being able to use the system to ensure those students are not crossing over in spaces, like if the safety plan includes language like that, like the bathroom or the hallway or spaces, this system helps us control that and maintain the integrity of the safety plan. You may not have given that exact example, but I remember you alluded to it, and I thought it was a
Oh,
super
well, yes. Yes. In terms of bullying and safety plans, I think it's hugely helpful just in terms of bullying and requirements to protect students when formal complaints of bullying occur. The school is responsible to respond and make sure the students are safe. So separating students is often a way that they have to do that. So this is just kind of sounds like a foolproof way to keep them safe. I just know also just I've had like 7 years of cases of students, just stuff happening to students in schools. And I just know bad stuff happens in bathrooms, but you're never going to surveil a bathroom because you can't. So this is just kind of a way to monitor and hopefully mitigate problematic activity in a bathroom. Like just in the most extreme way, it was in the news, but there was a trans student in, I think in a southern state who was assaulted in a bathroom and died because this happens in bathrooms. So that's the most extreme situation. But again, I think sometimes you can't fully appreciate the value of a system like this until there's a real emergency and you want to look back and know the whereabouts of students, or even in the real time moment when teachers have to be responsible for figuring out where all of their students are, they're going to know with the system. So I completely appreciate the concern that parents might have, and I completely appreciate what you are, like, yeah, maybe you do need to purge the data. The data should not be used against you. But I've just dealt with so many day-to-day cases of children in buildings that I see nothing but value to this. But of course, I am fully appreciative of the negative side.
Yeah, so maybe at some point, I mean, I think there's ups and downs, right? There's unintended data collection, and that's what I sort of focus on. So maybe when the time is right, and I think it was curriculum. I'm getting PTSD from my days on curriculum, but no, maybe it was curriculum. We talked about this. Maybe at some point, the two committees can also look at, Jim from a security perspective has his set of eyes, curriculum has their set of eyes, and we can kind of put the two together and just at some point just go back to the community and say the system has provided these positive changes and maybe have a policy in place so parents who want to know what happens to the data afterwards, how is the unintended, there's always unintended data in data collection. So it to your point, Erica, it's early now. Jim, I totally see the security side of it, and I see Nicole's point very well. If there was a emergency, knowing who's in the building, where they are, that is data that we wouldn't have otherwise. So for my purposes, just maybe when the time is right, whether it's summertime or fall time, when Jim and Dan feels like we have enough data, either this committee or the curriculum committee or the policy committee or maybe collaboratively. It's new, right? It's new to the district. The data is new. The whole housing of the data is new. So that's just I think from a security perspective, everything that you talked about, Jim and Dan and Erica, 100% very valuable. But we're arbiters now of data, and we should have some sort of policy about when that data is used, how long it's kept for, and that's my rant.
So for student management, student accountability, and emergency management perspective, it's a great tool. We have a crisis drill. I know there's kids in these bathrooms because it's right in front of me on the computer. So, but not only that, but from an investigative standpoint, that data that's collected, our bathrooms at the middle school, it's no secret we've had issues, just like when Nicole said, bad things happen in bathrooms. So when our security guards are inspecting those bathrooms during their rounds and they find vandalism or graffiti, this is providing a tool to go backwards and say, okay, in the last hour, who was in this bathroom? Process of elimination. So it's going to help redirect those students not to do vandalism or graffiti in the bathroom, but that's just another tool. My question would be for Dan. I know that in the police department, we have what's called retention periods for records. Dan, is there a state mandate for school districts on retention? How
Yes.
long you're required to keep records, when you can purge them, when you know, the retention standard? I don't know what it is for school district.
Yes, and there's different standards depending on what the content is.
Okay, so we may, to David's point, as long as we're abiding by those state standards, like if the kids are in the middle school and then they go to the high school, we might not be able to delete that data for the state mandates and the state retention periods. So that's something that we'll have to look into, and moving forward, we don't want to offend the state because that's not good. We want to make sure that we're within those state standard retention periods. And I do know from the police side of the house, when I worked in records, they come down and audit from the state library from Hartford, and they audit your records and make sure that you're not shredding or throwing anything out before it's time. I just want to bring that up real quick.
I would say, I'm not going to add too much here because everything has been said, but great points. I appreciate everyone's comments on it. Look, it's like anything else, right? There are benefits to it, but of course we have to balance those with privacy issues and the data collection and sort of, the ability for us to house this data and, what we do with it. So I do want to follow up with this. I think perhaps maybe at some point in the future, Erica, I know David mentioned this. Maybe this is something for the policy committee to discuss, consider. And I also agree with David on look back. So I don't know if it's the end of, this school year or maybe December, January of next year when we have enough data that we look back and judge, look, in addition to, of course, the safety sort of in the visibility that the safety precaution of the visibility that provides us with where students are, as Nicole suggested. It would be good to look back to see sort of, how we are judging the system aside from just safety concerns and, what benefits it's providing to us. So anyway, good discussion. I would assume that's, it's, additional discussions to be made. So we will keep track of this. Dan, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Okay, next topics. Let's see. Discussion of future meeting topics. Nothing under outstanding safety and security topics. Nothing in trends. Okay, so that's going to conclude the meeting. The next scheduled meeting for the Safety and Security Committee is going to be on April 14th at 9 a.m. Should anyone not know out there that's tuning in, that we've moved these meetings to every other month. And so the next meeting again will be on April 14th. So with that, unless anyone has any questions or comments, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Can I just make one more comment about that while it's on my mind? Another thing about the date or about what you're tracking, because I'm thinking like, it's not like every student is getting an air tag and we know where they are at all times, right? It's just a way to log that a child is asking for permission to leave the classroom. So the only record that it would have is that they left the classroom. You don't actually know where they went, right? So I think that is like
when they
know
sign
where they
out,
go. Yeah.
There's a drop down menu, and you could put nurse, you could put bathroom, and depending on the classroom, and Dan, you could back me up, depending on what classroom they're at, the system is programmed to send that student to the closest bathroom to that classroom. So they're not walking across the entire school and they're on a time limit. So that's the way that they built the system. But the bathroom is not the only option when you get a smart pass. You can go to the nurse, counselor, it's student accountability, and it manages the movement of students. So
It
that
manages
student,
the movement of students, but it's not actually tracking where they are. So
oh, no, no,
students,
no, no.
Right,
Once they
so-
sign out, if they, yeah, yeah.
right. So I guess just to put that out there that
It's
you're
not
trusting their
tracking the
word that they're
student.
going where they're going, but you're not actually surveilling where they're going.
Correct. Listen,
There's
it
still an
prevents
honor
the
system
teacher-
to it.
Right.
there's a little integrity in it, but it's an electronic version of a hall pass.
Right.
To break it down, a little more like in layman terms, that's all it is. The teacher would sign a hall pass to go to the nurse or the bathroom. Now they're doing it on a Chromebook and the data is captured.
I just wanted to highlight that, but that was all I had. Sorry.
It's okay. It's great. We're not air tagging students, as far as I know. Okay. With that, again, next meeting is on April 14th at 9 a.m. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Excellent. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good day.